Have you ever wondered what it means to be the best? Hey everyone, it's Coach Molly here from Three Pines Leadership and the Mindset and Impact Virtual Summit, and thank you for tuning in again. Today, I want to share with you another interview from the Mindset and Impact Virtual Summit. This interview today is with the one and only Rachel Boardman. So, Rachel is a former athlete turned podcaster, and she's also traveled the world, and that is awesome to see. And while she was traveling, she got this spark of inspiration, and she decided to completely change her direction in life. Well, she and I sat down for a wonderful conversation after her presentation at the summit, and I want to share that with you right now. But before I do, you have to hear her awesome presentation. The stories and the examples she brings up are so important. And what she's sharing with us are examples and ideas and ways that you can hack the mindset of elite athletes. Even if you've never played sports before or you hate sports, it doesn't matter. What she's talking about is all mindset, and it's absolutely fantastic, the examples that she shows. So if you want to get a free copy or free access to the summit, you can at leadershipmade.com, and also connect and subscribe on all of our different social platforms and podcast platforms as well. So before I send you over to my conversation with Rachel Boardman, I want to say I love you from the bottom of my heart. So here is my conversation with Rachel Boardman. Rachel, thank you so much for sharing all of that awesome content with us. Those tips are definitely things that either I'm going to start implementing in my day sooner than later, or things that I've already done in my life, like morning routines. I've gone through routines that are 2 hours long or 3 hours long. And I've also been finding way more success with those shorter 10, 20-minute routines. And as you say, it's all about consistency. What is your favorite podcast to listen to right now?
Right now, do you know what? It's Russell Brunson's Marketing Secrets. Like, that's the one that I've been listening to as part of my morning routine, like every single day. I think it's just because they're only short and they're just like full of tips, and he's just so enthusiastic. Like, I just like listening to him gets me all energetic and ready to go, and I'm like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, there was an episode in I think it was like beginning of March or end of February 2020, where he had just come back from a mastermind group in Puerto Rico or something, and he was talking about the boredom, and he was talking about finding those, I forget what he called them, but like special moments throughout your timeline.
Yeah.
So there's that boredom and falling in love with that. And as you say, that's the key to success. That's the key to continuing to find results. Even, you're not, as I say a lot, you're not going to show up at the gym once, lift a weight a couple times, and then be bigger and better than Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, it's that continued effort. But what do you think about what Russell was saying in terms of finding those magical moments to kind of shake up your routine and kind of shake up the way that our brains kind of settle into habit?
Yeah, do you know what? I really like that idea. I think he was talking about how things can seem to go really fast because like it's just the everyday mundane, and it's those things like whether it's a holiday or an event that you're going to, or like a birthday or whatever it is. Those are the things, like the key moments in the year that you look forward to, and like you can use them as targets for goals that you're setting. It could be that you want to get fitter, so you're going to enter a 5k fun race or whatever it is, and that's your goal. And it's you don't remember the training, you remember the feeling that you got when you crossed the line, and how everyone celebrated, and the medal that you get, and all those kind of things. So I really love that kind of concept, and how it is important to have those things to look forward to, because otherwise I think sometimes you forget, like, and you go into the what's the point, I'm not doing, what am I doing this for kind of attitude.
Yeah, I used to work in the travel industry, and we'd always talk about the timeline of the experience. So they say approximately when people book big vacations. Of course, we're not booking big vacations right now, but remember back in the day when we used to, um, you'd book it about 6 months in advance because you'd have 6 months of excitement and anticipation up into before the travel experience. Then you actually have the experience, and it might only be a couple days long, maybe a couple weeks long, maybe a couple months long, but it's a finite amount of time. And then the question is, how long does that excitement last afterwards? And that has a lot to do with your mindset and how you approach the experience itself. So I liken that to what it must be like as an athlete. You have the event that you're competing for, so you're working up to that event. You have the excitement and the adrenaline of being in the event, and then what happens after that? So from your experience, what was that like?
I mean, like, there's a reason why a lot of athletes that Olympic athletes that go and win gold medals afterwards, they have mental health problems, or they sink into some kind of depression, or like low, or like, well, I've reached the pinnacle of my sport, I've done what I want to do, and then it's like, well, what next? And I don't think I really had that particularly, because I never reached my like, as I kind of mentioned, like, earlier, I was like, my dream goal, like, when I started swimming, was I wanted to go to the Olympics. I wanted to win a gold medal in a world record time. I mean, I don't aim high. And obviously that didn't happen, but I always had goals that I wanted to set, and I come out, like, for example, like when I hit top 20 in the national championships, like that was one of the best races that I swam, and like I was like 13, 14, and that was like one of my favorite races that I did. It was like, I just swam it well, and I probably couldn't get much better than that, and it was great, and I lived up to it, and it was the end of the season, so I had a couple of weeks break, but then it was like, okay, next, what's the next goal? Like, and I already had a next goal, whereas I could kind of understand when you get to you win that gold medal at the Olympics, like that is the ultimate goal. Like, where do you go from there? So for me, I don't think it was always there was always a quick switch over to the next thing, which I think is probably quite important. Sometimes you might need help in finding what that next thing is, to be honest.
And we can talk about those big, reaching those pinnacle moments where there's a big pivot that has to happen. What about those gradual pivots, or those pivots that happen where it's not as drastic? Like when you had pneumonia, for example, it destroyed your lungs. What was that kind of recovery like?
So it took me so it was kind of, luckily it was at the end of the season, so I kind of, I had it in like June time, and then I had like a month out of the water, and then a couple of weeks where I kind of paddled around, didn't do anything, and then I went and competed at the Welsh Nationals, which I should not have done. That didn't help the scarring on my lungs at all. But I didn't have anyone that really knew that I shouldn't, because obviously it's a physical injury, but you can't see it, so you don't really know what's going on, and nobody had dealt with an illness like I'd had anyway. But it took me about 6 months before I could swim a length of butterfly again, which was hard. And then it took me 3 years before I did a personal best on like my best events, and that was difficult. I had to watch my friends carry on, like they continued progressing. They, some of them went on to like win nationals, British champs, go on to swim for Euros or for GB juniors, whereas I was just kind of stuck plugging along, putting in the exact same effort as they were, just not really getting the results. And to be honest, like it took a conversation with one of my original coaches. Her son was an Olympian. He's called Adrian Turner, and he had a life-threatening illness. Like a few years, I think it was like a few years before he went on to go to the Olympics, and he was like on his deathbed kind of thing, and he came back and trained at the club a little bit, and I watched him like from because at the time like his mum was still my coach, so he came into the sessions that I was training in and had his own lane and swam up and down, and I saw him from when he was like just getting back in the water to then going watching him qualify for the Olympics, and then seeing him on TV watching the Olympics. And then he came and chatted to me about his experience, and like that it is a long game and you have to kind of take it time by time. And that kind of having someone talk to me about what had happened to him, and that like I needed to take the long game, kind of probably helped me actually stick it out for the long term, to be honest, and gave me the courage to turn around to my coach on like training camp and say I need a session off because I won't be able to complete the camp otherwise. I'm not enjoying it. I just need to I need some extra rest, and just take that time to look at myself and say, okay, I need to figure out what my body can do, how far I can push it within reason, and so and it was hard, but I got there. And like that season where it was funny because things just clicked. All of a sudden, like I got in the pool and I was flying. I couldn't do anything wrong, and it was just like that confidence came back, and it was like I kind of knew before I got in the pool that I was going to do a good time because of the times that I was doing the training.
Oh, what a mindset shift. That's
Yeah,
amazing. And really all it took was a conversation.
yeah.
A conversation and an example, and that's fantastic. Can you apply those same lessons and that same kind of mind shift mentality to your experience going through your PhD?
I don't know. Like my PhD was a different kind of game, I guess, for want of a better word. So I went into it like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I enjoyed the research side of my undergrad, and I enjoy teaching. Like I'm good at teaching and coaching and those kind of things. And I thought I could combine the two and be like a lecturer, professor at university. So that's why I went down the PhD route. But I wasn't like, the problem is I had stuff that happened towards the end of my swimming career that I hadn't processed, that I hadn't really realized that I needed to process, and was kind of following me around. And that kind of moving away from, because I moved away from my PhD, like it was only 2 hours away, but it was still far enough away that I didn't have my support network. So I was in a new place. The lab was completely new. Like my professor had brought up his lab from Bristol to Nottingham, so there was like nobody really knew each other. We had to set the lab up, so there's just a bunch of like confounding stuff that happened that led to like my like mental health deteriorating and me spiraling into like a depression and that kind of thing. The only upside, like the thing that got me through, was that there was like my good friend, like we're really good friends now, he's called Sam, and he started his PhD at the same time as me. We both like hit my like primary supervisor was also one of his supervisors, and we worked in the same lab. And like he was going through the exact same things as me. Like he was, but his started a little bit sooner. So like I already knew like he was going through mental health problems and those kind of things. So the fact that I knew someone that was going through it kind of helped, and we kind of supported each other and helped each other get through it. And I think that's why we're still pretty close friends now, even though like we don't live near each other anymore.
Oh, that's awesome. Building your support network is essential. Even if we're talking about mental health, if we're talking about your work environment, your entrepreneur environment, your fit family, or even your community at school, that's so important. It's kind of like building up your superstar team, if you think about it that way. Oh, that's fantastic. What kind of advice would you have to give to someone sitting at home right now who's struggling with the same kind of stuff that you went through?
I know it's easier to say it than it probably is to do it, and I know that because it was for me. But to find somebody who you can reach out to and chat, even if it's not directly about what's going on in your head. And it might take a couple of times. Like for me, like I remember I rang my mum up, and I when I was at Nottingham, and I was like, in tears, I can't do this anymore. I just want to come home, blah blah blah. These, and it was quite obvious at that, but looking back, that like I had these mental health issues in like the throes of depression, and there was stuff going on. But it took a few weeks later for me to like, I was sat in the office, and I was like, I can't do, like, looking around thinking, if I leave now, nobody's cares. Nobody's going to notice that I've gone. Nobody's, nothing's going to happen. I was like, what's the point? And so I got up, I walked out, grabbed my things, walked out the office, went back to my flat, put some stuff in a suitcase, and then got on a train back home. And it wasn't till I was halfway home that I text my boyfriend at the time saying, I'm going home, I can't do this anymore, blah blah blah. And he convinced me to let my mum know that I was coming home, and my mum convinced me that I needed to go and see my doctor. I mean, I feel really lucky because like my doctor at the time, like he'd been my doctor since I was like a baby, so he knew everything about me. So I had that felt comfortable in talking to him. But whether it's a friend, whether it's phoning a helpline if you don't feel like you can talk to somebody, because I know, especially for me, sometimes I find it easier to talk about my feelings to people that I don't know than people that I do. So but just finding someone to talk it out. Although it doesn't even have to be somebody to talk it out to. Like in the past, like I was struggling with stuff in my business like a few months ago, and I needed to talk to someone. So I hit record on the video recording on my laptop, and I filmed myself talking about what I was doing, and I was almost in tears. And then I sent the video to some friends, because that's the only way I could do it. Sometimes I just talk into my phone, and just the act of just speaking it out loud, even if it's not to anyone, can help. But yeah, like, so it was just like the act of like just like speaking it out loud, whether it's to yourself, whether it's to somebody else, is kind of therapeutic.
Definitely, definitely. It's a different way to process
Yeah,
information through your brain as well. And even if you don't share those recordings, just having that time to journal in a different way, kind of.
yeah.
If you look back at your life's journey up until this point, you have so much more ahead of you. But looking back for a moment, what is one thing you are most grateful for?
My family, definitely, without doubt. Like, I feel so lucky that I have a family that is pretty close knit. Like, okay, my brother's now living in New Zealand, but like I spent growing up, like me, my brother, and my three cousins would spend Saturday afternoons around at my grandma's, and we'd play, and we'd, do whatever, build dens, watch TV, have dinner, and we've got such a like we're still really close as cousins and siblings go, that a lot of people don't have. And like, granted, like we all live within like a half an hour drive of each other, which is, apart from my brother obviously, which is awesome. But like, just knowing that I can go and talk to whoever, or we're all there for each other no matter what's happening, whether it's on the phone or whether it's, we're isolating because of coronavirus, can you go and get me some bread and milk type situation. um,
Oh, that's awesome. And looking forward into the future for a moment, how are you going to be remembered in 100 years?
um wow, I have no idea. I'd like to think that I'd be remembered for being someone that had a positive impact on other people's lives. I think that's a big thing for me, and for helping create a community for people that need a community. Like, one of my big things that I want to do is I want to create a community for athletes once they've left the sport, because there's a lot of times there just isn't anything for people. So it's just a case of being able to positively impact other people, and just share the love and the knowledge.
Oh, that's fantastic. And looking at the people who have influenced you and the people who have mentored you across the board, we talked about conversations that have changed your life. Who is one person who has made the deepest, most impressive footprints in your life?
I probably have to say my mum, to be honest. Like, she's obviously she knows me so well, and she like I can just be sat looking at something or just sat thinking about something, and she'll know that something's up. Like, she can tell stuff's wrong before I even realize that things are wrong, and she can kind of just like set me on the right path, I guess, and just but also like challenge me and call me out when things aren't going like I'm not doing the right thing, or I haven't um like called someone when I said I would, or I haven't done something like so. Yeah, she's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we're coming to the end of our interview time. Are there any last thoughts, any last closing words you have for everyone?
I think it's give give yourself the time to real think about to do that inner work, to realize who you are, to give yourself that time to rest. And for me, I think that's I mean, obviously the coronavirus and the lockdown situation has helped forced a lot of people to do that. But like as we kind of come out of that, I feel like it's important to remember that like one of my sayings I seem to say a lot, especially recently, is that rest is as important, if not more so, than work. And that's something I think we all need to remember going forward. That rest is when the actual progress happens. You know, it's when your muscles, when you talk about exercise, it's when they rebuild. It's when your brain like rewires and sorts all the memories and all that kind of stuff out. So like, you know, just take the time out to rest and don't feel guilty for it, because you need it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us at the Mindset and Impact Summit. It's been fantastic having you here. Thank you so much. Consider this a reminder if you need it. Rest, rest, rest. Remember to take that time to focus so that your brain can rewire itself, so that your muscles can recuperate, so that you're ready and you're at your best to take on the next day. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Lifelong Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership. And until next time, remember, I love you and be excellent to each other.